and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode where we talked about why mentors are so important. What are you laughing at?
You changed wardrobes, man.
Yeah, I always do.
I know.
I don't want the
start
folks to
doing
think
that.
I have one shirt. I have several, in fact. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode where we talked about mentors and why they are so important. Today, for episode number 289, we are going to do a Scratching the Surface episode on revisiting your why power.
Before we explain what Y Power is and why it is so important, first I want you to go to www.topnotchlive2020.com. Folks, if you're listening to this, it is Friday, and that means tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. registration begins. Is it at 8?
Wrong.
What time is it?
7:45.
7:45. Registration begins. You're going to get to meet my beautiful girlfriend, my mother, Kevin's girlfriend, all the people, speakers. Kevin, you might get to meet Kevin. No big deal. But seriously, go there. 2 discount codes. One is if you're a podcast listener, but not a college student. Type in 2020 at checkout in the promo code box, and you will get $20 off. If you are a college student, we will be having the registration people, volunteers, I'm butchering this, I'm sorry, volunteers, checking college IDs. Type in student, all lowercase, you're going to get $30 off. Be there or be square.
In fairness, this is like the 30th time you've done that promo, so I understand why it does get difficult towards the end. That's the last time you're going to do it. This is the last time you're going to do that promo for this event.
Yeah?
Also,
Wow. I wish I did a better job.
If you want to learn more about Hyperconscious and connect with like-minded individuals, feel free to join our private Facebook group, Hyperconscious Nation. Go to www.thehyperconsciouspodcast.com. Click join, #Hyperconscious Nation. You'll be taken there, and you'll become part of the group.
I feel really compelled to say something real quick. So, folks, if you go to the landing page and it still allows you to buy a ticket, that means we're not past capacity yet. Please come to this event. It's going to change your life. We want to meet you. Live networking events really, really have changed the game for us. Please let it change the game for you.
Let's do this, man. Let's do this. So we're doing a revisiting your why power episode. If you're part of your goal this year, say your family was struggling and you started your own business because you're looking for financial freedom.
Right.
That's your why power. Your why power is your family. Come to this event and learn more about finance. Come to this event and learn more about telling your story. One of the reasons, so we're going to go into this, but one of the reasons why I've done almost everything I've done the last 3 years is because of my why power.
Podcast.
And if you have a why power that's pushing you, it's going to push you into a room when it might be uncomfortable. It's going to push you on a flight when you hate planes. So we're going to talk about that.
So we have 5 questions prepped. The first one is, what is why power?
Why power. Why power is your actual reason for doing something. It's not the result you're looking for. It's not the money. It's not the podcast episode. It's the actual reason behind it. So again, the purpose of the Hyperconscious Podcast is it's not only for a life of freedom and success for Alan and myself, but it's to prove to countless others that they can have whatever life that they're willing to work for. Now, again, in no part of that did you hear $100 million, jet, car,
right,
sold out, arenas. You didn't hear
those
any
are
of that.
byproducts.
Those are byproducts. Now, success, yes, I say success, but what does success mean to us is different than other people. But it is the thing that pushes you, or it pulls you. It doesn't push you, right?
I think it does both, but
it does. But so we go, why is it important?
Right.
Why is why power important? Because when your motivation runs out, which it will,
oh yeah,
your why power is there to catch you. When you're doing a bodybuilding competition, the motivation runs out. When you're hungry, your motivation is gone. When it's 4 o'clock in the morning and you have to go do cardio before you work out, the motivation is gone. But the why power of understanding that you're going to be standing on stage with 7 other people who wanted this more than you, that's when it really locks in.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's because we're driven by pain and pleasure, right? So you're driven by the pleasure of potentially winning a bodybuilding show, but also the pain of not winning.
Well, it depends on who you are.
Whereas if you didn't have that end state,
right,
it wouldn't be like if you're doing a marathon in 3 months, you can't skip a day because if you do, you might look bad. You got to get leverage on yourself. Why power is absolutely everything.
Well, and that is exact why power right there. So doing a marathon versus wanting to run 26 miles. If you pick somebody and said, hey, do you want to run 26 miles? And they're like, yeah, okay, cool. Pick somebody else and say, hey, sign up for this marathon. Who do you think's going to do better?
Yeah, who's going to be more motivated?
The person that has the actual why. They have in writing that they're going to do this.
Right.
And again, I know I said that why power isn't necessarily an outcome. It can be.
Well, I think there's layers of why power, because maybe the reason you're doing a marathon is because of a deeper why of leading, for example, for your kids.
Or raising money.
Right, exactly.
That could be a thing too.
Exactly.
Right?
Why you're doing what you're doing is the most important thing, in my opinion.
I agree.
One of the examples that I usually use on this is I was giving a speech on hyperconscious leadership.
Yes.
Leadership.
Yeah.
At Medway High School to a group of high school athletes. And I remember I put up a slide of Tom Brady with the trophy, his 6th Super Bowl trophy. Not this year, unfortunately. No. But I said, who in here loves Tom Brady? We're in New England. Every hand shot up. The next slide was his book, The TB12 Method, How to Sustain a Lifetime of Peak Performance. I said, who here loves Tom Brady? Every hand shot up. The next slide, who here has read Tom Brady's book? No hands went up. I said, I did that to prove a point. You and I both love Tom Brady, but we love him for different reasons. The reason I love Tom Brady is because he's a great leader, his consistency, his work ethic, his self-discipline, the fact that he's the best in the world at what he does. That's why I value him. So now I'm more likely to learn from him because the reason I value him is for that reason. Whereas for them, it's maybe just because they like to see the Patriots win. Why is everything?
What is one example of a time where why power helped you do something that I won't say you were afraid to do, that you didn't want to do?
What's something that I didn't want to do where why power helped me do it? Oh, I would say the event that we have coming up, Top Notch, we originally intended on potentially having funding from Top Notch Scholars, the nonprofit organization.
Yes.
They got a big grant from Microsoft, and we were hoping to maybe leverage that. We weren't able to. So then I had to go and get an investor for the event. This is a ghost investor, so silent investor. So I won't name the name, but thank you so much to that investor for this event would not be possible without that person. They provided the capital necessary to book the venue. And without that, this wouldn't be possible. But having to go ask for that favor from someone and really pitch them on this win-win was something that I had to do because I believe so deeply in this event. Whereas I could have easily, if my why wasn't so deep and I didn't believe so deeply in live events, I probably wouldn't have wanted to ask. I didn't want to ask for money.
Right.
I had to.
Well, it's like you wouldn't have asked for a new computer. Well, you might if you needed a new computer. Like, you wouldn't have asked for something that didn't help you get better or matter to you.
Right.
It's not like you were looking for something to make your life more comfortable, like a jacuzzi. Like, you know what? I'd really like a jacuzzi right now.
Yeah,
I'm going to go ask somebody for the money for it.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
And that is what why power is. So for me, notice how I didn't say what Alan is afraid of. I said, what don't you want to do? Because he's not afraid of as many things as I am, even though he is soft. For me, everything that you guys have ever seen, basically everything that you have ever seen me do is a byproduct of this podcast. This podcast is my why power. If I want you guys to be able to listen to me. I want you guys to be able to ask me questions, to look up to me, to use me as a mentor or a role model. And if I don't get over my stuff, I can't help you guys get over your stuff. So the last 3 years of my life have been pulled by why power. Getting on planes, I hate them. I never did it before until I decided I want to get better and get over my fear, because in order to live the life that I want and have the impact that I want to have, I cannot be controlled by my fear. Why power? Public speaking, terrified of it. Still am. I'm still afraid of it. Why do I do it? Because I help people when I speak to them. I can help you better if you're in front of me and I can connect with you. I can look you in the eyes. I can point at you. I can make you laugh. I can make you cry. My why power is to help you. And that's what my why power is for everything. On the other side of everything I've ever done that scared me was the pleasure of helping somebody else.
Yeah.
If I want to speak to you and you live in Arizona, either you come to me or I come to you. I want to be able to come to you. I want to be able to fly to you, and I'm afraid of that, but I still do it. And I think that when somebody is afraid of something, there's a couple of things. You don't have a big enough reason to do it.
Right.
You don't have a big enough reason to do it. You want to use go ahead and use your thing.
The analogy that I actually wrote this out for Emilia recently. Picture a scale. What do you call those scales where there's like two
I don't know.
plates?
I think it's
there's
called
a plate on either end?
I'll find out.
Okay. So picture a scale where there's a plate on either end, and on the right side you have desire. On the left side you have fear. In order to take action, you must increase someone's desire for the thing and decrease their fear. So, for example, I'll just use the event, because I recently had to revisit my Y Power because we've been selling tickets to this event, and I had to reconnect with my why. Like, why am I reaching out to so many people? Because I believe so deeply in events, even though other people kind of don't.
Is it called a Libra scale?
Yeah, probably.
So
there you go. Yeah,
double pan balance. That's not really cool.
Double pan balance scale. So picture decision making. Okay, yes or no.
Can I show this to them?
You can try.
All right, keep talking.
Yep. So on the right side you have desire. On the left side you have fear. And we already set the intention to do an episode on sales and persuasion, selling with integrity at some point. Kevin mentioned that a couple episodes ago.
That was cool.
We will do that. But basically you have to understand what someone desires, and then you have to understand what someone fears. So for example, for this event, let's say you desire a better life in 2020. We need to showcase how this event is congruent with you having a better life in 2020. And we have to mitigate your fear. Maybe your fear is you don't have enough money, so therefore we discount. And then all of a sudden, $30 off, now you actually make that choice, right? So that's all based on Y Power. One of the ways I was able to get such incredible speakers into this room was I stacked the why. I used their Y Power to help others as, listen, if you want to help others, this is the way to do it. Come to this room and speak to these people because these people are eager to learn. Like that's how persuasion happens, is you take what someone cares about, their Y Power, and you showcase how you can help them with that.
That wasn't the example I was looking for necessarily.
Oh, okay.
So
simple no would have been just fine.
One thing that I say at some of my speeches is, if I said, "Hey, here's $20, or there's $20 in the living room of that burning building, go get it." Nobody's going to run in there and get that money. It's $20 is not worth risking your life over. Right? But if I said your family, if I came up to you, shook you, grabbed you by the shoulder and said your family is in that building, you're going to go get them. It doesn't matter what the money is.
And you're not even going to question it.
So that's motivation by money versus Y Power of like, that's my family. You're not even going to think about it. You're not going to think about it. So I think that I just firmly believe that people are like, I'm not motivated. Like, I understand that. I know what that feels like. But you also don't necessarily have a reason to be because you haven't created that necessity yet.
Motivation comes from the root word motive. Motive is a reason why to do something.
Yeah, but
but you're right. We've lost sight of that.
Yeah. So the thing is, like, if you Google motivational video, you're going to find motivational, momentary motivation. You're going to find something that gets you going. But how do you're going to do that 370 times a year, 365 times a year,
right?
Versus saying, wake up and saying, my goal is to have the most successful podcast of all time, not just for a life of Alan and a life of success for Alan and myself, but to prove to countless others that they can have whatever life they're willing to work for. The only reason I do the things I do is because of the podcast.
Right.
You know how many times I haven't been motivated? I'm not motivated to go to California in a month at all. I don't want to.
Right.
I'm afraid, but I do it because I have to. It's not motivation. Sometimes you're not going to want to do the things that you have to do.
Right.
But this gives you the reason to do it. It gives you an extra reason to do it.
To me, it's will you be glad you did?
Yeah.
It's not whether or not you want to do it. It's whether or not you'll be glad that you did.
But you have to do it one time in order to figure out whether or not you'd be glad.
Right. Which is Y Power.
You have to leverage the Y Power.
Right. So we have another question on here. Can you have the wrong Y Power? And if so, what's an example of that? So for you?
Absolutely. Just like you can have the wrong motivation for something, right? Can you have the wrong Y Power? Yes. If so, what is an example of that? Money. For me, I would work unbelievably hard, but only for money. I didn't care about anything else. I would trade in hours of sleep for money. I would trade in relationships for money. I would trade in comfort for money. I would trade in safety for money at times. Like, I've done some sketchy jobs where I'm working up on a lift 50 feet in the air doing some sketchy things.
Just for the listeners, we were helping two of my clients move recently. We were up in the attic moving stuff.
Yeah.
And Kevin was like, I feel right at home.
That's my home.
It's like a dingy attic. I couldn't even stand up.
That was nothing compared to, like, that had floorboards, man. Usually the attics didn't have floorboards. You had to step on the joist. If you stepped through, you fell through the ceiling. That was like a common thing for me, man.
That's definitely an example of the wrong why power.
Right. But
trade in your life for money.
There are chances. Like, who knows? I worked around asbestos. Like, that was a thing.
Jeez, man.
But I took nails in the head. Like, that was a thing too. But again, of course you can have the wrong why power.
You took nails in the head, man?
Yeah, man. I used to stand up, and if I didn't have my hard hat on, you get poked with a rusty nail in your skull. Yeah.
Respect. Goddamn.
I think a lot of people have the wrong why power.
I would say in relationships. Why are you in your relationship? Is it in the past I've been guilty of this, purely attraction, physical attraction.
Yeah.
Like if that was the reason why I was with someone, it wasn't a big enough reason. It wasn't the right reason, I should say. And again, there's no right or wrong. It's the right answer for you, the right reason for you.
Right. Tara, no, you're good. Tara and I were talking last night about money, and I was telling her why I want to be as wealthy as I will be, and I want to be. And it wasn't. Of course I want the car, of course I want the house, of course I want the comfort and the nice things.
Right.
But one of my things and one of the reasons why is because I want to pull up and I want to get my car valeted and be unbelievably nice to the person that valets my car, go in, get a nice dinner, be unbelievably nice to the person who serves me, leave them a great tip. And I want people to see me leaving and be like, oh, wow, you can be that successful and that nice.
Right. Lead by example.
Yeah, that's one of my whys. One of my whys for being successful is to show other people that, number one, it doesn't change you. Right. And number two, you can be successful too.
Right. It doesn't have to change you.
Yeah, it's not just about the money.
I was talking recently about the why power deep underneath Emilia and I's relationship, which is when we showcase how in love we are, we can see other people inspired by it. We literally have noticed that happening. And it's like two things are going to happen. When you see two people that are so thoroughly, genuinely in love, it's going to make you look at your own relationship and say, okay, maybe I'm not that way. Why is that? Can we shift it? Can we make it better? Versus, or maybe you have to admit to yourself, like, okay, this is the wrong person for me. And it's like, same with me being in shape. I want to prove that you can be lanky at one point and still create the physique of your dreams. I want to prove that you can be smart and good looking. You can be athletic and an engineer. Like, I've always wanted to be proof of what's possible. And that's one of my deepest whys, and that's also the why underneath our relationship too, which is huge.
What's the difference between motivation and why power to you?
I think what's interesting is when you ask me that question, I've always been... So, remember how we talked about, like, my smallest dream was wanting to be a Fortune 50 CEO? I've always had a huge why power. Even back in high school, like, get the President's Award.
Right.
And that changed everything I did, right? So, I think I've always been motivated by why power, but my kryptonite was definitely having the wrong one. Like, at one point, I wanted to be able to drink. I remember a competition in college, like who could take the most shots. Like, that's the wrong why power. I remember the why underneath that was wanting to be the most fun and facilitate the most fun. So maybe that was pure intention, but the approach was definitely off. So for me, I don't feel like I've ever not had why power because I've been so macro oriented, but I think I've had the wrong ones for sure. I know I have.
So, all right, so
because why power is kind of like a future thing.
Say I am one of your clients,
right?
And I'm a fitness client, and I come up to you and say, I don't know, Alan, I've been struggling lately to hit the gym. I just don't feel motivated. What do you say?
Two things. Number one is let's write out your top 10 associations and then rate them from 0 to 10 on how dedicated to their fitness goals they are, and you're going to realize real quick that you're around the wrong people. Number two is write down 25 reasons why you want the physique of your dreams. I have my clients do that. I still have some of my clients' lists. It's really cool to check. And then we check back.
But that's why power.
I know.
The 25,
you're stacking the reasons.
Right, the 25 reasons. Like, yeah, knowing your associations is huge. And understanding why you're lacking quote-unquote motivation is a thing. But also give me 25 reasons why you actually want to get in shape. You're going to have to find a bunch of why powers.
And it's interesting because you kind of uncover them.
Right.
So I did this with one of my clients, and I said, don't be afraid to be shallow. Like, if one of them is, I want to be more attractive to attract a mate to sleep with, like, who cares? Like, it's motivation. Yeah. It's fine.
And that's human nature.
Being attractive, there's nothing wrong with that. The cool thing about 25 reasons is it's going to uncover them because you're going to be looking for them. And most of our why power is subconscious anyway. If we don't know why we're doing what we're doing, we're on autopilot, which is the opposite of hyperconscious.
And so this is very, okay. if you're somebody, say you're somebody who struggles with eating quote unquote healthy, whatever healthy means to you, right? You might be motivated to eat healthy when summer is coming up.
Right.
You have a heart attack and your doctor says, hey, you need to change the way you're eating or you will die. That is why power. That doesn't go away.
I would argue they both are. One of them's weak. One of them's weak why power.
It's one that you could get away from.
Right.
It's one you could
one
get
of
away
them is
from.
you can't.
What happens when summer goes by? And if either you did it or you didn't do it.
So one of them's temporary.
Yeah, I think motivation is.
Which makes sense because if your why power is macro, it's never temporary. It's always there.
It's always there.
That's why I answered that's interesting.
Right.
Okay, cool. So what do you think for someone out there who struggles with motivation because they never had, like, what was it like for you when you didn't have why power? What did that feel like?
There was no consistency because there was no consistent motivation because I didn't have anything to compare it to. So like, if I don't do this workout, it doesn't, like, what's one workout versus why power of being the best in the world? The best in the world are working out right now. I have to do that. The best in the world did learn today.
Right.
Versus just looking for that result.
Then the rabbit hole becomes if they don't believe they can be the best in the world, they won't set that why power, therefore they won't have it.
So then set a smaller why power.
Like what?
I mean, for me, I didn't want to be the best podcaster in the world right off the bat.
Right.
I don't know how it progressed for me. I mean, I didn't want to be a speaker till this year or last year. I didn't speak until last year. Now I want to be the best in the world. But
awesome.
It all goes back to why. Helping other people. When somebody asked me, Sam Bakhtiar, when I was in his podcast, asked me, Kevin, what is your why power? To be the person I needed when I was at my lowest point and prevent people from ever getting to their lowest point. That's it. Now, if I made a list of 10 things I do, teaser clips, what are they always about? Figuring out your life. Podcasts, what are they always about? Figuring out your life. My speeches, figuring out your life.
Right.
My coaching, figuring out your life. Everything is about how to make sure that you live the best version of your own life.
Right.
So for you, I don't know what it is. Right? If you're listening to this again, I don't know what it is. Maybe you were abused as a kid and you don't ever want a kid to go through that again, so you start your own charity. That's your why power. That's why you stay up until midnight learning the tax brackets and learning how to do this and learning how to get the loan and learning real estate and what real estate costs in this part of town. That's why you do it.
Right.
Not because you want the money. It's because you have that why power. It's because I think you have to dig into some emotion. Why power is emotional.
There's a cool Nietzsche quote.
Go on. Wasn't he the most hardcore?
He was a hardcore philosopher.
But
German?
This quote, was he German?
Yeah.
I know my things.
This quote,
I know some things.
This quote was fire. Is fire. He said, "The person with a strong enough why can overcome almost any how."
I like that.
It's true.
It is true.
It's true. Think about the woman whose baby is trapped under a car.
Right.
140-pound woman can't deadlift a car.
Right.
But can with the big enough why. Now, don't do that without needing to, because then you will tear your
everything.
Yeah.
Tear your everything.
But like, that's the point here. That's the cool thing about, like, we have a triathlon with the whole group coming up. March, I believe.
Your guess is as good as mine, dog.
I remember Mark Metry asked me, like, what should I start doing, man? I was like,
worst advice ever.
Yeah.
Just keep doing what you're doing, man.
Yeah.
Hit the gym, do some weight training. Oh, I didn't realize you guys were doing a weight training triathlon. I thought you were running, biking, and swimming.
So I gave the wrong advice on that because I did just kind of show up and do it. But he has a stronger why power now to, like, we talked about running together. Like, we're going to start running and timing our miles. Why would we do that if we weren't doing a triathlon?
Right.
So you got to reverse engineer. It's almost like figure out what byproducts you want in your life and then figure out the why power you need to make those happen. So if you want to be more disciplined, you have to kind of Miyagi yourself into being more disciplined by connecting discipline with something you really want.
Well, what do we say? Manifestation is what? It's, oh man. Well, it's
imagining something.
Imagining and then emotionalizing.
Right, exactly.
Then strategizing and taking action.
Yep.
Emotionalizing is what you're doing.
Yeah.
I'm emotionalizing the pain that I felt when I was sitting at the edge of that bed in New Jersey and imagining you guys going through that and saying, okay, if I don't do this teaser clip, they'll go through that. What if this is the one day that Bob goes on Instagram and sees this?
Right.
And it changes his life. The reason this is called revisiting your why power is because as you continue on your journey, the law of familiarity will creep in. We've done 300 of these episodes. We've been on 40-something podcasts together, right? We've done a lot. We've been on interviews, all sorts of different things. And sometimes you forget, like, oh, I was that kid who started this podcast in his house with the minimal equipment that I had, right? 2.5 years ago.
Crazy.
And you have to revisit your why power sometimes.
Yeah, why did I start this thing?
What is this all for?
After that tough conversation you were with in live, I'm at the beach just crying when I thought about going to the bar. I immediately was like, why am I in Florida right now? The answer was to help people believe in themselves. Like, I was crying.
Right.
And that's why I didn't go to the bar. That's the reason.
The reason, so I came up with this title, right? I sent this to you today. The reason it's called Revisiting is because I told Alan recently I haven't been focused on the podcast like I should be. I've been focused on other things. I've been focused on speeches. I've been focused on clients. Like, I had to revisit, like, why did you start this in the first place?
Right.
Remember people reaching out saying, like, oh, nobody's talking about this. This is awesome.
Right.
Oh, I really needed this. Is it any coincidence we've gotten a ton of love lately?
Right.
Probably not. From people saying, like, oh, I just got out of this. I just did this because of you guys.
Right.
That's the why. It's not the fact that you guys send us messages. It's the fact that you guys feel like you can send us messages because you feel like you've made a change. Like, it has nothing to do with us, but that's the why power. That's why I'm vulnerable. That's why I'm transparent. It's all because of you guys and because I want to connect with you guys. We got 45 seconds.
45 seconds. So the ultimate form of why power, I don't remember the name of the episode, but when we were in that motel room and Taryn wrote you a note saying something along the lines of, you're willing to work so hard to make everybody else's life better.
Yes.
Like, that's your why power.
That is my why power.
And she knows that, and it's like you immediately started crying, and it's just like, if you don't have that deep meaning, like, if you don't have deep frickin' meaning to the little mundane bullshit that happens on a day-to-day basis, you're not gonna do it, guys. You're not gonna. Like, why would you do it? Like, you know how many times I've been sitting in my freaking car alone, not wanting to go into that goddamn gym?
All the time. Yeah.
Regularly.
Right.
Last night, it's 10:30. I woke up and didn't stop working until 10:30 at night, and then I'm going to go get a workout, or I could drive home. The only reason I didn't just drive home is because I'm speaking on fitness on stage to help so many other people get healthy. And it's like, if you don't get fired up like I just did for the boring day-to-day shit that is required of you, you're not gonna make it. Fired up. Fired up.
Fired up. All right, we got to go. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this episode. I challenge you to revisit your why power. Up next, we have an episode with the one and only Mark Metry. We are actually going to be sitting down with him tomorrow morning, because we record this on Mondays. But we are going. My goal is to pull back the curtain on social anxiety, how he overcame those things, and what his life looks like now, because he is killing it.
Yeah, he's killing it.
Killing it. So we hope you will enjoy that. We hope you enjoyed this. Revisit that why power. Come see us speak, all of that happy jazz, and we will talk to you on Sunday.
Talk soon.
Bye.